welcome to the Biotopes. Well, as you can see, we've got our Solimoes River, or Upper Amazon Biotope, up and running. The sump is going, all the plants are in, substrate, wood, everything's set up. Thanks for stopping by, and let's get caught up in how we got to this point and what we're going to do next. Stay tuned.
Here's some examples of some of the rocks that I'm selecting. These are just things I've found in the yard. There's some kind of size, you can see the size with my hand there. So I'm just deciding which ones I want to use. So I've started to kind of pile them up and see what I like. At first I thought I'd do a big pile of rocks here. So I've kind of got them all set in there. But not sure I totally like it. I want to leave enough room for some substrate and for the plants to kind of grow into.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to the Biotope. So I'm right in front of this 75-gallon tank, and this is going to be our Upper Amazon River Biotope, specifically Upper Amazon in Peru. And my thought on this tank is it's going to be kind of a river bank, so high elevation over here on the left, and then be more open space here on the right with a large kind of a wood structure like submerged roots or fallen tree. On this side, I'm gonna kind of mound it up and have some pleco caves kind of installed in the substrate, much like plecos would, their habitat would be like in the wild. And I'll plant some Amazon swords kind of on this river bank on the top here that will be, in some cases, reaching the top of the water. What I started with is this egg crate, and just to kind of provide some surface structure so that any rocks that I put in here now to kind of create some elevation aren't going to damage the glass, and it helps provide kind of raise those rocks up a little bit. Initially, as you saw, I had more rocks in here, but as I was doing some measurements, my tallest sword plant currently is 12 inches tall, which is more than half of this tank height. So I might not have to go as tall on the elevation of this as I previously thought. So I think I'm going to stick with just 2 or 3 large rocks, provide that base, so I don't have to waste a ton of substrate, gravel and so forth, create that height. And then, so next what I'll do is I'll add some substrate and start to mound this up. I am going to kind of rinse these rocks off. I wasn't going to. But I think we'll just kind of rinse them off and get them cleaned up, and then get them placed back in here. Again, maybe 2 or 3 rocks, nothing crazy, so that I can save some of that space that would normally be just taken up with a bunch of gravel and rocks. So let's get started on that.
So here's me coming back. I've rinsed off these large rocks, and I'm just going to try to get them placed in a position that makes some sense. I want it mounded up kind of the back corner, sloping forward and to the right. So when you're doing this, take your time, fiddle around with different rocks, fiddle around with different positioning, flip them upside down, try different angles. You want to start with the correct base. The last thing I want to do is get this set, not be happy with it, and then start to add substrate and so forth, and then have to rip that out. So I was really trying to be intentional about what I did. Okay, so now I'm adding some, this is just some leftover, it's gravel, it's fluvial stratum, just a mix of some gravel and substrate that I had used in a previous setup. And it's pretty natural looking. It's got some browns and blacks and some whites. So I wanted to use that and just fill in some of those gaps. What I'm doing here is adding, I've got 2 large media bags full of this same kind of gravel mix. So I'm trying to figure out a good place, a good positioning for these bags to not, again, kind of twofold, not take up a ton of space in towards the front of the tank, but also create some height there and just allow some really beneficial nutrients for those Amazon swords, the roots, to kind of dig into over time. And the swords will kind of penetrate this mesh bag. So there's a lot of debris. This gravel's been kind of hanging out in my barn for probably 6 months now, at least. So just got some, dust and dirt in there, and I did not, rinse these out. They've been just in a 5-gallon bucket in my barn. So just wanted to, anyway, it's got some kind of debris that's floating to the top, so that's what you'll see me kind of working that little fishnet with. So then I'm repositioning these bags, as you can see, and trying to find a good position to put them in. I think I decided with this because it leaves some space towards the front of the tank that I can fill with, the other substrate, more gravel, and eventually sand to cap it with. So that's why I went with this kind of left and right position. So now we're back here. We've added some more of this gravel mix, and I'm just scooping it from a 5-gallon bucket into the tank, and again, just providing a good base. Lots of nutrients in this. Again, it's previously used substrate. I would advise always save your old substrate when you break down tanks, because it can really help a lot, especially in your kind of lower level kind of levels of your substrate. This is all going to be capped with a couple different kinds of sand in the future, so I'm not too worried about what it looks like. I will have some of the gravel kind of peeking through or spilling through initially, and even over time as the fish interact with the substrate. So I wanted to make sure that I used something that if it did come through the sand was natural looking enough, as opposed to all black gravel or some kind of colored gravel. You see there on the right, I've got this piece of wood that I cast in some cement and sand mix, and I've had it kind of weathering for several months to kind of leach out some of the cement chemicals and byproducts. Same thing with this, you kind of see that lower left, there's a pleco cave there. All it is a PVC-D cave that I've encased in cement mixed with sand, just some other kind of natural materials, some wood bark and so forth to give it a natural look. And towards the back you can see I was before just uncovering another pleco cave that's just one of those, I think it's from underwater galleries, and so I've kind of buried that into that substrate as well. And these would be great realistic like habitats for plecos to hide in and maybe spawn in. Plecos dig, lots of plecos dig caves in the muddy riverbank, so this will kind of simulate that and be a lot more natural looking than just say pleco caves on their own in the middle of the tank. So there's 2 there now. I'll be adding a 3rd later on that I've currently got a male Solimoes living in one of my holding tanks, so I'll put that in when I'm ready to add fish.
All right, everybody, that's what we'll leave off with this one. But be sure to subscribe to this channel, the Biotopes, give it a like, share with your friends, and stay tuned for the next parts in this build on the Upper Amazon, the Solimoes River in Peru Biotope. We're starting to get all of our substrate in, and wait till you see where this tank is at today. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.